Most of the time, a developer's relationship with the game ends on release. After years of work, for fans, this is of course where things begin, and fans can show love and devotion to a video game like nobody else can. More than just swapping around character skins so that every video game has a bizarro world that for some reason frequently features Thomas the Tank Engine, some video game mods make massive quality of life changes. I'm Cy for WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 times fans fixed major video game issues. Number 10. Better driving, CYBERPUNK 2077. AAA games have become a pretty sorry state in the last few years, where most gamers will feel their backsides pucker when they first check out a heavily anticipated title to see if it even runs correctly. No bigger disappointment and disaster there ever was, of course, than CYBERPUNK 2077, which was a total mess of bugs that only resembled a functional game if you squinted really hard at it. Of course, its legacy will forever be tarnished, but CYBERPUNK is far and away from being broken at this point. Years of patches have brought it to the status it should have been at launch, however the game still has a few warts. As an open world set inside of a metropolis, fun vehicle controls are key. For many, getting behind the wheel in Night City is a frustrating experience thanks to slidey controls, poor brakes and an inconsistent sense of momentum. The immersive driving install tweaks the controls of vehicles across the game to give them more gradual acceleration and deceleration. Pair this with the better vehicle handling mod and exploring CYBERPUNK starts to take a turn for the better. They're both pleasant adjustments in their own right, but having a play with car controls who match your tastes makes a hell of a difference when it comes to actually navigating the game's world. Number 9. Mogiri mod, Final Fantasy IX. As Final Fantasy VII receives a seemingly endless stream of new sequels and content, it leaves other titles feeling positively abandoned these days. Now with its stylized art style and very unique setting, it's tough to visualize what a full AAA remake of Final Fantasy IX would look like. It might not even be a good idea, as it's easy to imagine the charm of the original being lost in the conversion to a more modern or realistic style. Whilst Square Enix have been good about re-releasing the many classic games through the Final Fantasy series over the years, some fans hunger for more. Quality of life improvements to battle speed and quicker leveling are welcome, but FF9 fans were keen to see the game given a little more attention, and so they did it themselves. The Mogiri mod uses deep learning techniques to upscale its bevy of beautiful backgrounds. It also has a custom version of the pre-existing Memoria mod inside of it to expand these reinvigorated visuals into gorgeous widescreen HD. Text is designed to pop out, and some areas have even been manually redrawn to make sure everything is tight and authored. Additionally, in a rather unique stroke, the mod has 15 optional reorchestrations of classic FF9 tracks, and as any Final Fantasy will know, the music is a big part of the experience. Number 8. BUB'S Gun Stash, Dying Light 2. If games like Dead Rising taught us anything, it's that open world zombie games are only as good as the variety with which you can take down the horde of the undead. Whilst the original Dying Light had a few usable firearms, the sequel decided to reduce that down to 0, so players are forced to rely almost entirely on close combat. As part of the lore, the military apparently managed to confiscate them all, and because of the zombie apocalypse, production totally ceased, which to many fans was a pretty poor justification for the lack of guns. Many felt that Techland had basically rushed the game to the finish line and omitted firearms as a consequence of this. And so fans used just as basic an explanation to put them back in with BUB'S Gun Stash. This mod places boxes containing civilian weaponry that survive destruction around the map containing half a dozen firearms. These include a Beretta and a machine gun, as well as some really out there guns to cause maximum chaos. It can of course be easily argued that a rocket firing pistol breaks the balance of the game, ergo the gun mod perhaps isn't right for a first time playthrough. However, when you want to just go ham and go on a killing spree, well, once you've tried BUB'S Gun Stash, the game feels lesser without it. Number 7. Golden Axe Plus, Golden Axe. The best thing about covering something like this is just getting deep into the most intense fan communities and seeing their unending love for a game. Something that might seem trite or unnecessary to outside eyes lights a passion in others. Chasing that arcade feel for the home console port is something that many older, wizened gamers remember well, and it's absolutely carried over into the colour hack mods for Golden Axe. Somehow there have been multiple mods for the 1989 beat-em-up purely just to change the colours of the game's tile sets. These tweak the brighter Mega Drive palette to the arcade's more saturated look. These hacks then fold into Golden Axe Plus, which is a definitive example of expanding a game in small ways without fundamentally changing the experience. Here, two players can finally select the same character. Magic attacks are no longer set to a specific warrior, and now all three can equip whatever element they prefer. The mod adds not just an option for the arcade look, but sound effects that were cut from the home release too. For a game as endlessly addictive as Golden golden axe, fans owe it to themselves to play this more robust experience tailored to their own choice. Number 6, Stop Wasting My Time, XCOM 2. Stop Wasting My Time might be the most satisfying and self-explanatory name for a mod ever. It's all about expediency. Who needs a flashy title? Heck, if it could directly install itself into your XCOM 2 directory instantly, it probably would. XCOM 2 is one of those games where the gameplay is at the core of the experience. This sleek tactical sci-fi RTS simply feels good to play. The fact that its missions can unfold in numerous ways or feel different depending on the type of team you take in with you is a testament to this. If anything, it's only let down, particularly on subsequent playthroughs, by how it keeps stopping and starting. For reasons unknown, after combatants perform any combat action, the game waits a few seconds before moving on. This can include firing weapons, moving in and out of cover, and scoring a kill. It's like the animations refuse to get too close to each other, and this is where Stop Wasting My Time comes in. The mod removes these gaps in gameplay, as well as a few other bits and pieces that bog down the experience, like repetitive round warnings. Some unnecessary animations are gone, and many integral ones are outright sped up. It makes replaying the game so much nicer. It's no massive overhaul, but one that you're certain to miss if you ever uninstall it. Number 5, the J Sawyer mod, Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas, while celebrated as the underdog king of the franchise in many circles, has always been regarded by many fans as a little on the easy side. As such, the J Sawyer mod is the must-have missing puzzle piece for the hardened fan. This is a unique entry in this list in that the mod itself was made by someone who worked on the game, but when you're working on a game after your contract is up, at that point you're more like a dedicated fan with a cool CV. The J Sawyer mod was born out of a desire to implement changes that lead dev Joshua Sawyer himself liked during development, but was unsure if the fan base, who had been established in Fallout 3, would be receptive to. As it turns out, he was a lot more in tune with determined Fallout fans than he first thought. What the modification focuses on is tweaking the game's math. The level cap is reduced from 50 to 35, but every level takes much longer to reach to make it more impactful. Player health and carry weight is lowered, and if this isn't enough, there's an added hardcore mode where the prevalence of food and drink around the world is lowered, which directly correlates to a tweaked hunger and thirst system. The complete list of changes is long, but altogether creates a more challenging game for those who want to experience what the wasteland of New Vegas could truly feel like. It stops just shy of giving the player toxic radiation themselves. Number 4, Ghostbusters Special Edition, Ghostbusters 1990. There have been a variety of video games based on the 1980s comedy sci-fi movies, but Ghostbusters for the Mega Drive is perhaps the unsung hero of the lot. Taking its core DNA from the likes of Mega Man, the title tasks players with exploring a variety of themed locations to platform around, fight off spectres, and trap the end boss. Stages can be played in any order, and players have a choice between 3 Ghostbusters, each with their own stats. Of course, Peter, Ray, and Egon are all here, so where the heck is Winston Zeddemore? By 1990, the 4th Ghostbuster had starred in both feature-length films and was an equal parts player of the group, particularly thanks to the long-running cartoon. Winston's absence from the game's lineup never sat right with fans, and so some passionate ghost heads decided to eventually do something about it. Ghostbusters Special Edition released this year with the intention of adding Winston to the title without replacing any of the others, and along the way added even more content. Not only is Zeddemore available, but Louis Tully, who briefly dons the jumpsuit in Ghostbusters 2, is hidden behind an input code as well. A new harder difficulty is joined by multiple different coloured outfits and a sorely missing save function. Now fans finally have the tools, the talent, and the missing Ghostbuster. Number 3, Restored Content mod, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. While some mods allow fans to change the game in brand new ways that developers may never have anticipated, some are there to finish the job that the team may not have been able to do. The sequel to the groundbreaking Knights of the Old Republic was met with some mixed opinions on release, particularly in regards to the latter half of the game. Here, gameplay progression falls apart, as does a lot of the story beats. Character arcs end ambiguously, and there's a general air of the wheels really falling off the tracks narratively. This is one thing that the now legendary Restored Content mod fixes, fleshing out the last act in ways that Obsidian Entertainment ran out of time to do. Fans involved were keen not to overstep their mark and understand what got removed for the right reasons and the wrong ones. This includes missing areas and missions, such as the HK-50 factory that was designed to be a big moment in the characterization of the fan favourite droid HK-47. The mod took years of work, and whilst not officially endorsed by the developer, they've at least acknowledged it. It even got ported onto iOS and Android devices alongside the game, and was teased as DLC for the more recent Nintendo Switch port before its untimely cancellation. Number 2, Seamless HD Project, the Resident Evil series. If there's one franchise synonymous with the word remake at this point, it's Resident Evil. And whilst Capcom's recent run of Resi remakes are absolutely excellent in their own right, it has left a worrying question hanging in the air: what happens to the original games? The remakes continue to be supported and ported forwards, but the PS1 games have been left left abandoned in a forgotten old mansion somewhere. Unlike most other entries in the series, they're notoriously missing from Steam. As for home consoles, RE2 and 3 haven't seen a release since the 2003 GameCube ports, and the first game has fared even worse. For games that kickstarted an entire subgenre, it's poor form. In lieu of waiting for an official release, fans have given the first 3 PS1 titles their much-needed remaster. Called the Seamless HD Project, a team of deeply committed Resident Evil fans have put a lot of time into blowing the dust off these games without changing them at their core. Replacing the fuzzy 25-year-old static backgrounds with shiny new revisions make the games a joy to re-experience, or a great way for new players to experience the franchise's origins. Of course, playing these Seamless HD versions of the games legally require you to own copies of them in the first place due to the need to emulate them, so it's only half the battle. Capcom really ought to work alongside these hard-working fans to bring these restorations to the hungry resi masses. And number 1, DSFIX, Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition. The Souls series has had a weird history in the grand scheme of things. Demon Souls was originally overlooked by critics and most of the wider gaming space, meaning that it's only through a cult following that we even got its spiritual successor Dark Souls. And whilst the game was an instantly celebrated success on console, From Software set a terrible precedent with its PC port. The Prepare to Die edition of Dark Souls released nearly a year after its PS3 and Xbox 360 launch and was hugely underwhelming. The frame rate was horrifically low, grinding even further in some more complex areas. Blighttown infamously could cause the game to crawl down to unceremonious crash. On top of this, the game just wasn't up to par with the console releases. Textures were fuzzy and the game was locked to a particular resolution for some unknown reason. It was still Dark Souls, but it was not a good first introduction for PC players. Thankfully, the simply titled DSFIX mod helped the game's information navigate its way out to the player in a smoother fashion. This enabled the game to run at a pretty steady 60 frames a second, even in the dreaded Blighttown. Anti-aliasing was improved, the resolution was unlocked, and there was even bug fixes. And this was all apparently done in 23 minutes by a legend of the Soulsborne community, Peter Toman, who turned his passion for modding into a full-time job in the games industry. Let us know of any other examples of video games that fans had to fix, either glaring issues or just small little ones that everyone appreciated, down in the comments below. Make sure you like this video, and of course, click the video that's on screen now to stay with us here in WhatCulture Gaming. I guarantee it's a good one. Make sure you head over to whatculture.com for more content every day. I've been Cy for WhatCulture, and have a good week.